Step 4. Everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Welcome to Tales from the Field. My name is Bradley Ball, and we are back and better than ever. Last week, we took a break for Memorial Day, but then on this very special Tuesday, it sounds like a very special episode, right? On a very special Tuesday, Daniel Taylor came to us and told us about how to be able to use database monitoring to change database washer data store to Fabric Event House. I was touched, you were touched, but not inappropriately. And that's the important thing. That's the important thing that everybody needs to realize. Then on Wednesday, I was back with Microsoft Fabric's Fix Errors, Ask Questions, Explain Code with Microsoft Fabric Data Warehouse Copilot. It is currently in public preview, but you got to fill out the form. There's a wonderful blog for that over on the Microsoft Fabric blog, and we want you to check that out. There is so much to do, so much to see. You don't want to miss a thing. If this is your first time finding your way over to Tales from the Field, you are here on our YouTube channel, which is the hub for you for Tales from the Field. And it is so easy to interact with us and so easy to interact with the show. All you have to do, go ahead and get rid of that banner, Josh. All you have to do is go ahead and make a comment on the stream, and one of my amazing co-hosts, including Josh, will make a comment on that stream, and then we will post it on the page. You will be a part of the show, and we love to hear from you. Josh and I were doing a bunch of fun best buddy stuff at Tim and Jess's wedding this past weekend, so I got to get some digs in because I've been a little too sweet to him this whole weekend. So anyway, but other than Josh,
I got kidnapped by aliens and lost for 3 weeks in the nether regions of space.
And that's what it took to get you to go on a vacation with me.
And I come back.
That's okay.
I come back and I get flogged. Okay.
I'm sorry. You know what? Let me get you a little closer to me. There we go. So I can just reach out. Let's see. Is it my right? No, it's my left hand. There we go. Shh.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Okay. Oh, well, hey, Marco, it's me and you. It's me and you, pal. That works. So before we go any further, let me introduce these amazing co-hosts. I am joined by the Mountain Man, Mr. Daniel Taylor, the man in the hat, Mr. Josh Luedeman, the best beard in the business, Mr. Andreas Padilla, and then the Robin Hood of the crew, Mr. Marco Aurelio Cardoso. And then I love this man like Deadpool, loves Wrexham football. It's your friend of mine, Neeraj Jhaveri. Quick call to action. You're here for the Azure Data Community Roundtable. So what do we want you to do? Well, we want you to be a part of the Azure Data Community. How do you do that? Well, you go over to Microsoft and you go to our webpage for the Azure Data Community. You can find a user group, submit your user group, or you can check out the newsletter or any of the wonderful events we've got coming up in the community. All types of wonderful links as well to be and questions and answers. Great stuff. You want to be a part of your local community. We all are, and that's part of the way that we found our way to Microsoft and many of the different opportunities that we've had in our careers. So definitely go be a part of the community, go join and be a part of a user group. Next up, where do we want you to go? Well, once you join the community, we want you to get some free training. And there's no better place than SQLSaturday.com. We are very active in SQL Saturdays. You can see there's a SQL Saturday coming up next in Trujillo, and then South Florida, Baton Rouge, South Island, Albany, wherever you're at, we've got you covered. You're going to find Microsoft speakers. You're going to find some of the top speakers that there are in the consulting field, MVPs, volunteering their time to be able to help educate you at a SQL Saturday. It's wonderful stuff. You want to make sure you go there. And where's the next place to go? Well, you should head over to datasaturday.com because much like SQL Saturday, you're going to find wonderful events live in person, sometimes also streaming online from around the world. You can see Croatia, Rhineland, Brisbane, Saturday, South Island, Columbus, Ohio. So many wonderful things that we have going on at these places. And if you're a fabricator, and I know I'm a fabricator, you're definitely going to want to check out the European Microsoft Fabric Conference, which is coming up in September, last week of September. It's going to be a real good time. We've got our sessions submitted and our fingers crossed. Hopefully we're going to be there as well. And then the very last thing, if you're learning and you're a fabricator, we'll head over to our Microsoft Learning Group. Join this. We've got over 3,000 members who are active, who are on there, ask questions, post blogs, post videos. Some of those blogs came from posts that we actually have within this community. It's a wonderful way for us to interact with the community, and the product group is on there as well. Whew. That was a lot. Andreas, talk to me, Goose. Hey, Stephen Wheeler. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Jacksonville, Florida has the best SQL Saturday. Absolutely. Jacksonville, Florida was fantastic. We love being there. We've been there the last 3 years, and we are looking forward to seeing that continue. It's a wonderful place and always a wonderful time. Dan says good morning or evening. Well, good morning to Stephen because it's Jacksonville. So it's obviously the morning. At least for another 2 hours. Well, a little less then. But Andreas, what did you do this weekend?
My wife is hot, so I had to call the air conditioning people. Yeah.
Well done. Well, good way to work in the compliment of the wife. While at the same time, I'm sorry for your air conditioning issues.
But it is true. They did come in and work on the air conditioning. I put in what's called a halo, and a halo not only kills a lot of bacteria and dust for you, I recommend it. So, yeah.
Excellent. That's
what I did.
Raj said, the man in the hat who was abducted by aliens is back. Did you give ransom money or did you or hats to get free? And Josh said that he had to deal with some tests and did not enjoy it. That explains why you were sitting kind of gingerly. But you were really cutting a rug on the dance floor this weekend. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was not comfortable.
Maybe that's why you were moving so much. I was surprised. I got to tell you, as much as I've hung out with Josh, there's very few opportunities that I've seen to see him dancing. And man, the rhythm is going to get you eventually.
And this weekend you saw those reasons. Now, one thing you did say that I want to touch on, you called Marco our Robin Hood.
Yeah. We say because he's our
I'm going to date myself here. He is our Errol Flynn.
Okay. I'm sorry. Who did you think of when I said Robin Hood? Did you think I was calling him Kevin Costner?
Well, no, I thought of Robin Hood, and who is, in my mind, the pinnacle of Robin Hoods, and it is Errol Flynn. Yes, that goes to black and white, golden age of Hollywood. I get it. I'm dating myself. I'm old. I know, but you are an Errol Flynn looking son of a gun right there.
I mean, I was honestly thinking that we could have gone. Who was not Stephen Amell, but who was the guy who was cast in Smallville, who ended up on This Is Us? I could see him as
dad
that
in
version
Smallville cast in This Is Us.
No, not the dad. Who was on Smallville? Who was cast as Robin Hood? Not Stephen Amell.
Justin something or other. Yeah,
Justin Hartley, or I think that's it. Yeah. I was gonna say I'm looking at Marco. I'm getting Justin Hartley vibes. Maybe that Robin Hood as well. No, all right. Well, something that's not old like Josh.
It's better than incredible. Me. I'm just the Peter Griffin of the show. Let's go.
I don't know where to go with Peter Griffin with you, buddy. But other than he's old. And Marco said he's going to pretend that he didn't have to do a web search on that. I agree. Let's talk about something a little bit newer. And I'm going to go to our good friend Neeraj Jhaveri with the Fabric May 2024 update. Neeraj, what have we got here?
Big updates this week. Build had a few announcements. The biggest one was real-time analytics, which was changed to real-time intelligence now. And that was the biggest announcement. One more thing, you can still get your discounts on your Fabric certification exam. Brad, you did an amazing whole day show in one of the FabCon, and that was definitely a good one to be there. And then if you go back to your contents, Fabric at all places. Every week or every month, things are coming up into Fabric, and there are a lot of new announcements that came in May just because of build and a couple of other things. So everything is very detailed up here that you can look and check it out. The biggest one is Copilot for data warehouse. Yes, that is correct. Data warehouse has a Copilot in there.
Well, I was going to say, and I know we have some blogs that are going to address some of this because we've got our video last week that dealt with Copilot for Warehouse. Dan had his on using Event House for Microsoft Fabric real-time intelligence to be able to store your SQL data that you're getting your monitoring data from using Database Watcher. And then we have a wonderful blog, just as a bit of a tease coming up for the native execution engine for Fabric runtime. And there's a couple other things in here as well. This is a long article, but this is full of great stuff and all the announcements that you need to be able to understand May.
And
Go ahead, Neeraj.
And if you missed out on real-time analytics, we had Zia on our show on the April round table, and the same day as Build. Definitely look at it. She gave the highlights of all the things that were announced in the Build side.
Absolutely, and I'm also gonna highlight introducing API for GraphQL.
Oh, yeah.
GraphQL was announced. Our good buddy Argenis Fernandez and his team has done a wonderful job putting that together. Kudos to you, Andreas. Kudos to the team over there putting that together. Great stuff, and it's a wonderful thing that people should be exploring and looking at how they can utilize. I always enjoy that. Speaking of something that I really enjoyed as well, so announced at Build was the early adopter preview for vector database support in Azure SQL Database. Now, this is actually something that a lot of us on the call and that our team is actually deeply involved in. We're very excited to be working with the team on vector database. One of the things I would tell you is make sure that you understand what this is for. So first off, if you're looking at a vector database, you're using AI in some way, shape, or form. When we look at using words and tokens, we're looking at how do we pass those tokens along in a more efficient manner? And part of that would be vectorizing the different content that we have to be able to send over to those models to be able to reduce the amount of tokens. Now, that may be important if you're using a small language model, and it could be very important for you to be able to have large prompts that you're utilizing to be able to send over to large language models. Whatever the case is, you want to go through here. This is Davide's blog and Pooja Kamath, who are both the PMs running this. And they've got a wonderful example of how to be able to use this, put it together, some wonderful code examples as well. And then one of the key things down here at the bottom is if you are looking to sign up, aka.ms Azure SQL Vector EAP, you can get allow listed. So that way you can access the vector database functionality specifically within Azure SQL Database. And this is big news. This is something that we're going to be playing around with. We're going to have some videos on this. This is going to be some fun stuff for us to play around with. Speaking of fun stuff, I saw this next blog and I thought, well, this is going to be fun for us to talk about. And of course, who is more fun than our good buddy, Mr. Daniel Taylor, the Mountain Man. Microsoft Fabric Enterprise Development Considerations. I love this little diagram that we've got going on here. Dan, what do we got going on?
Yeah, so William Krager, excellent article. It's a lengthy article, so give yourself time to read this, folks. If you need to, break it up in a couple of sessions. But William goes through, gives us why he wrote the article, right? Then understanding medallion patterns. First, understanding the medallion pattern in Fabric. Then he goes through and compares that medallion pattern in other Azure data services. And then he takes it further and he combines lifecycle management and medallion patterns, goes through the different steps of how those work together. Then William goes through and gives us an example or an explanation of Fabric application lifecycle management. And he's giving us all these details for a reason, because then he gets into the key part, I think, of this article here, which is governance and security considerations, and talks about how, you know, in a lot of our articles, it says, or a lot of folks put all their lake houses in maybe one workspace, and that may not provide you the detail or the granularity of when it comes to security. And he talks about workspace sprawl and how once you start separating these different workspaces for security considerations, you get some sprawl there, and how to handle that with artifact deployment considerations, some of the limitations. Then William goes into enterprise architecture. Enterprise architecture strategies. Say it slowly, Dan. And then talks about the single workspace medallion pattern and goes through it with each of the steps and how you could isolate those patterns from bronze to silver to gold. And then he wraps it up quite nicely at the end with his final thoughts. So a great article. I love this one because it gives a very high level, 30,000 foot level of an architecture. And then you could use this. And then we brought Gene Hayes, a coworker of ours, a teammate of ours, her medallion architecture, right? You could use her detailed in a box to build on what he's built on here. So excellent article. I found it very, very thoughtfully put together.
Very nice. I really enjoyed that. I love the thoroughness of the article. All the different considerations that customers have to do. There's a lot of these conversations that he's having within this blog I've had to have. And what's interesting is there's also some additional layers when you look at this for security. I've been working with a customer right now where we're utilizing the capability to use OneLake security, create those customized groups. And one of the key questions that they had recently was, does my user have to be a member of that workspace for me to add them to a group? That's a great question. And unless somebody comes on here and answers it live, they're going to have to wait for the video tomorrow to figure that out. But next up, I'm not going to tease you any longer than this because we've got another great one. And of course, you know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the best beer in the business, Mr. Andreas Padilla, the LLM Latency Guidebook, Optimizing Response Times for Gen AI Applications. I don't think that's the longest title. I think we've got a couple more coming up that are going to be in consideration, but that felt like a good warm up for me to be able to step through. I think Marco, though, both of his have pretty long titles. He may be going for a shot, but Andreas, what has Luca put together here telling us about optimizing response times for Gen AI applications? What do we need to know?
Oh, Luca does great. He taps into our Maverick and Goose, your need for speed. And, you know, I've been getting this question a lot from, I get this a lot more from customers, not just how to set up RAG, but now how do I squeeze that final drop of, orange juice and lemon juice to make this go that much faster. And what I love about it is he explains where are the areas where you're going to find latency. You're going to find latency on the network side and loading that prompt into memory, and then the response generation side of it, and then there's going to be some networking side on the turnaround. But he explains in all those sections where you can squeeze a little bit more juice, what technique you can apply to maybe selecting the right model, maybe compressing the tokens that are generating, doing some prompt engineering, maybe doing things in parallel, caching certain responses, not having to rewrite everything every single time, load balancing techniques, and then maybe you're enabling streaming. So what he does here is what I recommend customers always build that end to end, watch the water flow, then go in and fine tune in every one of those areas. Where can I, you'll go back. Well, can I rewrite my prompt? Can I do a little bit more on the load balancing side? Can I start to cache things? Do I have to can I summarize things? Do I have to rewrite the whole response every single time? It's not that you're going to get it you're going to get it on the first take. This is going to be a rinse and repeat process, but I love the way he breaks it down. So now you can go back and apply these concepts.
Wonderful stuff.
And check out the GitHub repo that he built. It was really snazzy.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it when we've got a good GitHub repo in there. And then Josh said, it's crazy how many announcements you miss when you've been kidnapped by aliens. There's a lot of good stuff out there. Neeraj had a great suggestion. Josh, maybe you can start a SQL Saturday at the alien location. Maybe I think that's a great idea. They need to get a little more SQL in their life. No. Josh is not.
No, too much testing. There's too much testing. No, thank you.
Dan reminds us it's never the network. And then Josh had a follow-up where he said that he was really glad that Andreas wasn't going to squeeze more blood from it. I know we were talking about oranges and then we were talking about blood. That's where he thought he was going. Save it for October and Halloween. Yeah. That's a good point. When he started that,
squeeze a little bit more orange or lemon juice. I'm like, oh, thank God. I thought he was going to squeeze blood. Never mind. For that, wrong month. We need 6 months.
After Josh's encounter, he's a little worried about things being squeezed.
Yes.
That's fair. That's fair. It's very kind, very empathetic. And speaking of, this is obviously one of our bigger prompts coming up, and I can't wait to tackle it. I think we're going to have to modernize this with the Justin Hartley Robin Hood of our group, Mr. Marco Aurelio Cardoso. So, Marco, revolutionizing information retrieval for AI app with Azure Search Vector, Semantic Keyword, and Hybrid Search. Whew, that was a good one. Okay, so Howard, tell me how Aske is going to be revolutionizing our information retrieval with all these wonderful items.
Yep, and there's a reason why this title is so long. This is the list you get when you first create an Azure AI search service and you go to choose your algorithm. You get all of this straight up in the first configuration page. So what Akshay did here, and this is not a new blog, but I thought it was super relevant to what's been happening and what we've been talking about in the data AI space. You'll see that this blog talks about search and it doesn't mention OpenAI in anywhere. Because we've been doing search before Gen AI was a thing, right? We had vector search, we had vector databases, we had keyword search, semantic search. All of these were already there before we even started to talk about Gen AI. So what Akshay did here was he broke down how each of these work, and I especially like the diagrams where he breaks down how each of these algorithms actually match your queries to the documents themselves. He talks about how vectorizing applies to text and images. He talks about semantic memory and how a vector index works. And he goes into the details of how each of these things combines into the power that AI search provides, all the way until he gets to hybrid search, which is the cream of the crop of search. He presents some benchmarks that we have internally at Microsoft to define, what's the best algorithm we have for searching. And he does that really bit by bit so you can understand what each of these things are. Typically, when we try to create something like a retrieval augmented generation app, if we don't have the search piece working very well, it just doesn't work. It won't bring you the most relevant information. It'll get confused. It'll hallucinate. So this really helps set up the foundation of an AI app that relies on search. There's a video. There's a ton of links that actually link to Gen AI stuff if that's what you're interested in. But yeah, I thought I'd bring this here because I get a lot of questions about search. It just really helps break it down.
This is wonderful, and I absolutely love how much this does break that down into those components. And you're right, people tend to forget that we were doing this before OpenAI came along, and before we had all these large language models. But we've been doing this for quite some time. Those models are built on the shoulders of those that came before them because you don't get to that level of processing without that, right? Absolutely fantastic. We were talking about AI the other day and how it was kind of throwing a fit like a 2-year-old, or sometimes the responses would be kind of crazy. Every time I hear AI hallucination, I don't know if I'm the only one, but I imagine like this guy from the 60s wearing a tie-dyed shirt, sitting on a chair in his front lawn, just looking at somebody going, "Did you see that too?"
That's kind of how it feels like sometimes.
I know, it's like, what do you mean? But it is funny because sometimes when AI doesn't know what it's doing, it tells a story like a 5-year-old. And that's true. Maybe a hallucinating hippie retelling the story of a 5-year-old. I don't know. There's something we got to work the hippie in there somewhere. But what I don't have to work in is a good time, because whenever this man talks, it's always a good time. And you know what I'm talking to? The man in the hat, Mr. Josh Luedeman, how to use Cosmos database at extreme scale with large document sizes. Josh, what do we got going on with Cosmos database?
So first of all, Marco, your titles, you'll win this week. I'm, been off for so many weeks. I decided to crawl in, not fully run into the room. So I started with moderately long, but Brad, this one is for you, buddy. So this is this article about running Cosmos DB at extreme scale actually dives in to the internals of how Cosmos DB actually stores data and indexes it under the covers of Cosmos DB, right? So it gets into that to help you then understand what you need to do to, to store the data, and, different features that you need to turn on to make it as performant as possible when you're trying to do extreme scale. One of the things, but it talks through, at the beginning of the article, the actual data container where it's stored, how it's indexed, which then helps with getting, more of a, we'll say, a read accuracy, getting not necessarily full acid, but, getting there closer to what it was, or what it, what we traditionally think of when we think of like a SQL server, right? It goes through all that, but then gives you all the different things, different snippets around enabling integrated cache, using the premium blob storage underneath, replicating your data using change feed, things like that. All the best practices that you want to do. But I just really thought it was really cool because it got into the actual internals, buddy. I was like, that's going to eat that up.
I was going to say, I absolutely love this. This is great stuff. I do love the internals and understanding the way that the database engines work. But to be fair, there were a couple comments. Dan, Cosmos is fitting with Josh's return to the show from space. You know what, Dan, kudos. That was a good one. That was solid. And then Marco said large document sizes in NoSQL give me the creeps. Glad to see this tackled. I agree. It's creepy. But
Brad's
there we go. And he's on mute. He was on mute.
I got it. I got it.
We got him.
I'm back, baby. I'm back.
There we go. Woo. It is official. Josh is back. Way to go. We did it, everybody. Best cup of coffee in the world.
And before we transition.
No. It's not we did it. I muted. I spoke on my own mute. I did it. I own this. Don't take it away from me.
Hey, you guys remember when Josh was out of the office for 3 weeks?
It was so lovely. But one thing before we transition into the next set of blogs is, since Josh was in space, I need him to answer, and he doesn't have to answer this now, an age-old question: is the Earth flat? Continue, Brad.
I'm going to cover that one. I'm going to cover that one for you, Dan. No, it's not. Sorry if I just shattered anybody's perception out there, but it's not. It's round. That's the way that works. And speaking of the way things works, well, it always happens that I'm going to get something amazing from this man. Of course, you know who I'm talking about, the one and only Mr. Neeraj Jhaveri. Visualize and explore data with real-time dashboards. This is one of these great announcements that we got from Real-Time Intelligence, and we actually just got this announcement yesterday. Neeraj, what do we have here from Michael Barr?
So Michael Barr shows you how you can use real-time dashboards in there. And I mean, that's definitely, everybody was waiting for it. I mean, this is one of the big thing. You could have the dashboards not just dynamic, but in real time. So this titles or tiles that you are creating it up, that can be updated in real times in that manner. You also are able to do advanced visualization options. So with some of the new visualizations that came in, if you go down, Brad, they definitely show you what new visualizations are coming up. And then no code, low code. I mean, very low code. You don't have to worry about it. All it does is, with the Copilot and other stuffs, it creates a real-time dashboards for you. So that is something definitely somebody who is not a developer or writing big codes can just play around and get through it. Big time announcement on real-time analytics or real-time intelligence is what you should be really looking at right now.
Well, and I love this capability, right? Because when we had real-time streaming way back in the day, when we initially got that for Power BI, one of the things that everybody had an issue was it was incredibly basic charts. You could really only do bar, or you could do scatter plot. That was it. You couldn't really do anything else. So having these additional advanced visualizations, and there are a ton of visualizations that are natively available in the KQL language. There's so many amazing things that you can do with that, including putting line and bar charts down. Well, I'm sorry, line plots along map coordinates to be able to show how routes and scatter plots can occur. We've actually got a tutorial of how to be able to do that, looking at the way storm weather data goes and really zooming in on a map to go, this is a line of where storms went in this particular area, and this is the damaging and the effect that we found with them. That's absolutely fascinating. Josh says no code, low code. What if I want all the code?
I
You would
thought,
want all the
Josh, you
code,
forgot how to do coding after you came back from Aliens.
Yeah, I mean, he's
No,
not a
no,
manager anymore, so
that's
he's
how I
got to learn how to
actually
do something.
That's how I actually escaped. Honestly, that's how I escaped. I used code.
He used strategery.
Bad code.
No, strategery was the. No, that was.
I'm sorry. I
manipulation.
I love the idea that Josh was up there as Jeff Goldblum. You know, hacking away, putting the skull.
No,
But I could definitely see Josh going, let's light the cigar.
I was wondering which Jeff Goldblum you were going for, Independence Day or Thor Ragnarok. We're talking about aliens here.
I can see a little bit of. I can see a little bit of both.
Hey,
way
way
to pull in the Ragnarok, and
fly on my ship.
I was fantastic stuff. And speaking of fantastic, it is one of my favorite human beings. My favorite name on Twitter, Pawar BI, Mr. Sandeep Pawar, ELI5. What is native execution engine in Fabric? So this was another big announcement that we got. And it's really, really cool stuff, but you got to dig into it a little bit. By the way, he explains ELI5 at the end of this blog, so I don't want to ruin that. But what I really, really loved is he took us through this process to be able to explain this, how we're taking the Spark query, how we're translating it to more of an arrayed relational tree, an algebraic tree with gluten. So that way we can create a substrate plane using VLOX. And when I read through this, I'll be honest, the first thing that I realized, and it makes a lot of sense because Spark is an in-memory operation, right? And a SQL Server, what do we have? In-memory OLTP. This is native compilation in-memory OLTP, but built for Spark, because what it does is it allows you to be able to take a Spark execution plan, rewrite it as the actual C# code without the need for Java on a Java VM to be able to translate all of this. And it allows for us to be able to have much faster, smoother compilations of query plans that will hopefully optimize things. There's also an interop where if for some reason VLOX fails to be able to acquire your new plan, it will fail back to the original method that is in Spark. And as I'm reading this, I went, well, this makes perfect sense. Native compilation using C++ was something that we were able to do in SQL Server to massively speed up in-memory operations. And it just makes sense that the smart open source folks out there in the world looking at Spark would go, yeah, how are we going to be able to do this? By the way, this is rocket science. So if you have a hard time understanding it, Sandeep does a great job of breaking that down for you, because this type of in-memory utilization of compilation code to be able to get faster real-time operations was originally used in rocket science to be able to track rockets in the distance and the locations that they were going. So it's really amazing. But what he does is he walks through here, he breaks it down, he shows how we do a configuration on a customized pool. This is not yet available on a default pool. So it does mean you're going to face about 2 minutes of startup time because you've got to put this in place. But when you put this configuration in for your pool, you'll be able to get this native engine exposed to you, which should be able to increase your capabilities with Spark. He also includes some really great YouTube videos on accelerating Spark using gluten and VLOX. And then he's got another one, advanced database systems on VLOX. So that way you can go and you can find it. And also there was apparently wonderful recordings recently at the VLOX Con that they had on YouTube. And what I love is, I use this phrase all the time. I love the abbreviation. ELI5 means explain it to me like I'm 5. Explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old, because I need the basics. And so often in technology, people are scared to go, I don't understand the deep execution of things. But it's true mastery is being able to describe something at that high level, to be able to connect those dots. And they're very often when I'm sitting down with brilliant people, I say, okay, that's great. You said words and they sounded like English, but I don't know what any of that meant. Explain it to me like I'm 5. And often I'll get that concept so I can start to draw those parallels. Sandeep did a wonderful job because, again, the first thing I did was I went, oh, I understand exactly how Hekaton works. in Microsoft SQL Server, Spark is an in-memory operator. We're adding native compilation execution essentially to the capabilities that we have within the Spark engine to be able to speed up your code. And that just makes all the sense in the world to me. Fantastic job, Sandeep. Absolutely love the blog. Josh, go ahead, sir.
And the most important thing, two things actually. Kudos to the software engineering community for coming up with another awesome name, gluten. And
not even an animal this time, right?
No, it's not an animal, but also when I think of gluten, I think of slowing me down, not speeding it up. So again, it's another great play on words. Like gluten, I'm like, okay, it's time to go sit on a couch. This is gonna make my Spark lazy. No. It's gonna speed it up. When's the last time gluten sped any one of you up? Well, I know it's never done it for me.
It's just asking for a new project to be called gluten-free.
But now that they've established gluten-free means slow and lazy sitting on the couch digesting your pizza.
I know, right? But it'll be really trendy out in Hollywood. Everybody's gluten-free.
Oh yeah,
that's that. At least
not in California though. They don't like gluten out there. Never mind.
Yeah, they don't like. Yeah, exactly. So maybe it'll be Project California. I don't know. Maybe that's the new name. It'll be the bear because it's from California and it's gluten-free. There we go. We've got our open source naming convention down. Now we just need to build the product. But speaking of something that I don't have to build, and I'm very, very excited to see this because this is functionality that we've needed for a long time. And I'm talking about another great blog that is brought to us by Mr. Daniel Taylor, New KQL Updates and Deletes. Dan, what have we got going on here?
So Brian Bunk, we're lucky, and I'm hoping he corrects me when he reaches out and connects with me on LinkedIn, but goes through an article here about, and I had this question recently a couple weeks ago, and I didn't know the answer. I didn't know you could delete, especially from a KQL database. Now, Brian goes through here and he talks about, normally we don't want to leave our data there. We want to leave all of our data in our KQL database. It's there for a reason. But if we have an IoT device going really awry, there's things we can do to get rid of that. So first thing Brian does is he goes through the delete statement, how the syntax works, and, it's very similar to T-SQL, right? We should be able to pick up on these statements. And it can take some of us longer than others to learn KQL, like myself. But, he says stick with it. You can pick this.
Remember, we got a video and there's a Copilot for that. So it can write that for you if you're having a problem.
And there is a Copilot for that. Now, he also calls out something very important here about the delete. The delete is not an actual delete. It is what's called a soft delete. And it's only marking the record as something that shouldn't be read when you query your data, but your data is still going to be there within your KQL database. So he points that out as well. One thing I forgot to mention at the top of the article, he also points out that deletes and updates will only work with our Azure Data Explorer or our real-time intelligence within Fabric. It doesn't work with Log Analytics, Sentinel, or our graph databases. Then he goes through and talks about the update statement, how to use the update simple statement. First provides us with the simple one there. Once again, talks about where we can put the where clauses in there, where we can extend to that, where we put the extend has a single equal sign, the where clause has double equal signs. So understanding the syntax is important. And then goes through this really complex statement down below where he does a delete and an update at the same time, which I thought was really cool because that's really what I'm going to want to do if I'm having issues with my data. And then he gives shouts out, to the team for getting this done. But really cool having deletes and updates within our KQL database and a reason why we may want to do it and not do it as well.
Very, very nice stuff. I love it. It's really great stuff. And I love the reminder at the end. We have this functionality, but don't think that you get to replace this with your data warehouse, right? One of the key things to keep in mind, this is for streaming data, this is for real-time data. It is blazing and ridiculously fast. But if we're constantly doing small insert updates and delete operations, we don't want to look at KQL as the source for that. We're looking for loading, for fast ingestion, for fast reporting. But this is something where if you want to maintain that data in that shape or form, you're going to want to transfer that data out, maybe have it in a data warehouse and do your batched updates in a Fabric data warehouse or in a Lakehouse or something like that, other than just the KQL database.
Right. I mean, it's perfect. I mean, working with in a gaming industry, right? It's a perfect database to get that user information really quick. I did this. I did this. I had all these logins. I had these logins. I had these events. And then taking that data before you delete it from your event house, you know, before it purges out, moving that to a data warehouse so you have that historically. But this is great for real-time usage and getting those analytics as they stream in. So good stuff.
Absolutely. Josh added, IoT has gone rogue. Someone call Andreas. Well, Andreas, I'm going to ask you to report to the stage, because next up, we've got Build 2024 Azure AI Video Indexer integration with language models for textual video summary. That was a sleeper, buddy. That did not look nearly as long as it felt like when I got to this page. I had to double check it. I think the Build 2024 got dropped from that. That might be another that might be a contender for longest. I don't know. We'll have to see. But any way that you spell it, this was really amazing to see Satya put this out there, and to see the great work that we've done on this. So Andreas, tell me what we've got with the AI video indexer.
So I want you guys to close your eyes and imagine Brad, Josh, Dan, Neeraj, and Marco on a road trip, okay? And they walk into a 7-Eleven at every city they go along their road trip. And we have cameras monitoring where they go in the 7-Eleven. And we realize that they always gravitate to those nerds gummy clusters. What do? I don't want to look through all those videos to see what they're doing in the 7-Eleven. But I realize that, wow, every time they go for the nerds gummy clusters, well, I'm going to make those as easy as, I'm going to probably reposition that so Brad can go for them, or I'm going to probably lower the price. What we've done here with Inbal, one of our great friends from the AI Video Indexer product group that we're working with, they've made some major advancements in the Video Indexer product. They've improved text video summarization. So this is awesome. Like, imagine, not only summarizing every time Brad goes into a 7-Eleven and I can see, well, gummies, nerds are nerds. Or we go back, 20, 30 years in time and go back to college. We don't have to see the whole, video presentation from our professors. I can just summarize the whole video and get all the bullet points. There's so many applications that we can throw the AI video indexer into, not only for text, summarizing video to text, but they've made major advancements in this product, so you can deploy this video indexer on AKS Edge enabled ARC clusters. So now I can take that video indexer and put it on edge devices, and I can hook that into a camera and get summaries of what's going on a shop floor, on a factory line. What they've done here with this product is so cool. Now you're going to probably see the ability for in these edge scenarios to tap into cameras much more easy, so we can get that summarization, put it into a RAG pattern, and do a lot more analysis of what's coming through video. So way to go, Video Indexer PG.
Wonderful stuff. I love that. And you're not wrong. I got a big giant bag of those gummy clusters. I think I texted you the other day. They had them at Target on sale, and it was like this big giant bag. And I was like $8.89. They had them on sale. I was like, you had me at hello. That's all I needed. The video, you knew exactly where I was going, Andreas. Dan, though,
in a second.
Dan said for some reason he needed gummy bears. That's okay, Dan. I'll share the nerd clusters with you. But gummy bears are also good. They're a classic. Speaking of a classic, we're going back over to the classic himself, Mr. Marco Cardoso. And now we've got, I forgot to close the window. We've got step-by-step guide building and integrating custom package and ADF workflow orchestration manager. I think I got this one a little bit easier than I got Andreas's AI video indexer. We're going to have to do a word count. I'm still not sure which one is. This looked longer on paper to me, but I felt like Andreas's was pretty long. Marco, this is by our colleague Sally Daba, another wonderful fast track engineer that we have over here at Microsoft. Tell us, what has Sally got put together in building this ADF workflow orchestration manager?
Yep. So first of all, I absolutely love this fast track blog. Every time I have a question I'm not exactly sure about, and I get one from my customers, this is the first place I go to. And in fact, a couple weeks back, somebody asked, "Hey, what's up with this Apache Airflow integration in Data Factory? What does it do? Do you have any guides?" So I went to the blog. It was the first on the list. So I'm very happy to see this here. And Josh was just talking about no code, low code. I'm a fan of low code, no code. I absolutely love it as far as it gets you. But sometimes you just need a little bit of code to get the job done. So this wasn't always this easy to do with Data Factory. There used to be a ton of moving parts. You had to either integrate with Azure ML or maybe Azure Batch. Now you've got a guide that's no more than a 10-minute read where you can develop your Python code, package it up as an Airflow workflow, and you can deploy it to Data Factory directly from the UI. So what Sally's doing here, she created a workflow that's intentionally hard to do with low code. She's reading from GitHub, reading up on the repositories and counting the number of times each language comes up. So, if it's a Python repository, that's counted. If it's Go, it's counted, and so on. We don't have a connector for GitHub, unfortunately, but it's super easy to do with a couple of lines of code. So she's creating a package using Python, uploading it into Data Factory. Data Factory now has that that environment built in. So you can upload that dependency and start your workflows, monitor them directly from the UI. Super easy to do. It's never been this easy. And I noticed very recently that feature has lost its preview tag, which means it now has better support. It's going to have more and more documentation and more samples going forward. So super easy to use, and everything that has Apache in its name, it's got a huge community behind it. So you can always count on finding code samples, documentation. Stack Overflow is going to be littered with questions about anything Apache. So make sure to check that out. I certainly will. I have a ton of Python workloads that I've been itching to put on Data Factory, so I'll be using the heck out of this.
That is awesome. I absolutely love it. Josh noted classic. I thought Brad was coming to me and calling me old. Gosh, I mean, you think I'm going to insult you all the time? Only 50% of the time. 60% of the time, it works every time.
I would like to lodge a formal complaint that 50% is BS.
Noted. Denied. Neeraj said Marco wins his first title. With his first title. So Marco, congratulations for the longest title of the week. And Neeraj has a reminder, Josh Luedeman, old as gold. Old as gold. And Josh said, if old as gold, I'm platinum. So, now it sounds like we need to get Josh a platinum hat. That's what that sounds like. So he can be the man in the platinum hat.
Bingo.
Speaking of the man in the platinum hat, last but certainly
no. Platinum was Daniel. That was Dan.
Oh, that was Daniel. Oh, yeah. Dan said, if old is gold, I'm platinum. But so
I feel bad for Dan. You're trying to give me stuff and leave Dan out in the cold. What the hell, man?
Well, Dan's got a beret. I'm looking forward to him wearing in a video that we're going to be.
To be fair, it's not far off of reality. Dan is not out in the cold. He's out in the heat. But ching.
Well, then it is far off of reality. He's not out in the cold whatsoever.
Well, he's out in weather. He's out in weather.
Were you going to say literally and
just
describe something figuratively?
Just stop. You're gonna try and turn this into an insult. Just let it go.
I don't know how I was going to turn it into an insult.
Let it go.
Oh, Oh, you spoke to my heart right there. We
There
got
you
a
go.
little
Start
musical
singing
rendition
Moana,
going
Brad.
on.
Go for
Let me
it.
call.
Moana,
Oh.
here we
I got
go.
it.
One
I
and two and three.
I was gonna say the live edition with interpretive dance of Moana the musical will be happening later this evening. But until then, we're over to automating fabric items with real-time intelligence by Mr. Will Thompson, brought to us by the man in the non-platinum hat, Mr. Josh Luedeman. Josh, what do we got going on? What's Will got for us?
So when I saw that Will had something out there, I wanted to check it out because last time I talked to Will, he was working on Power BI. So when I saw this out here, I was really intrigued. And what I found is if you use it all, any of the special triggers in Data Factory, like queuing off of a storage event or something else, what this is actually about are these fabric, automating fabric items with real-time intelligence means you can use things like, obviously storage events, which is similar to what was already in Data Factory, but you can also trigger data pipelines off of data going on in your environment. There's a lot of different things you can do here. Fabric workspace item events, anything going on in there. And it's not just a new file being created or deleted. Maybe you can have an event type in the blob of whether it's the file name's renamed, directories renamed, anything like that. You can use any of those events and then add even other dynamic content as well to the trigger. And even using it for the example that Will provides towards the end is anomaly detection triggers in private preview as well being added into this. So it's a really neat opportunity to trigger data pipelines outside of just, I need this to run 3 times a day, or every hour, or when this file appears. You can actually start getting into the data in your environment and start using that to trigger other data operations as well. Really interesting thing.
Well, and this is something people have been asking for a long time. We need the capabilities to be able to have on event for files landing in OneLate and to be able to trigger different processes. And now we have that.
Yeah.
This is huge.
Oh yeah, and I mean, even when it came way back when to Data Factory, it was sought after enormously. Just even for that basic, when a file's created, I want to run a pipeline. So yeah, getting this in here and actually expanding it, it's positively affecting the lives of multiple user bases.
Very nice. All right. Well, it is time for us to wrap things up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by saying that the schedule for us this week, we've got this week we've got our roundtable. Next week we've got a roundtable, and then we have 2 PG live streams that we're planning on in this month. Isn't that right, Neeraj? Oh, sorry, you're on mute, buddy.
That is correct. That is correct.
I was going to say I'm very excited about that. So this week and next week we are here with you live. Then we're going to be doing 2 PG live streams, and then we are off the first week of July to celebrate the 4th of July holiday. And so join us next week because it's the last chance to be able to see us before we hit the second week of July. It's a busy calendar, and we are looking forward to spending time with you. We've got a lot of stuff submitted to other conferences. We've got some information back. We will be at Live 360, and we are working on some new pre-cons for you right now. One of them is going to be for Microsoft Fabric, a full day of Microsoft Fabric. That link doesn't work anymore. We've actually got to build a new one because that link went to the old site. So we've got to update that. So just a quick note. Don't hop over to that.
I updated it. I thought I updated it.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay. Well, we're going to check that out after the show. Just to double check that that's still going. Josh is looking at it now. But keep in mind, we will be at Live 360. We've got Microsoft Fabric post-conference session that we will be doing on Friday with Mr. Buck Woody and a large number of the Tales from the Field crew. I have a database watcher and Microsoft Fabric real-time analytics session that we will be doing with myself, Thomas LaRock, and Mr. Daniel Taylor. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then we have a lot of presentations throughout the week that we're all going to be doing. And Josh, where are we going to be in November, the week before Thanksgiving in November? Give it to me fast.
give thanks because we will be at the Lowe's Royal Pacific Resort and Conference Center on the luscious, beautiful, delectable grounds of Universal Studios Orlando at the most temperate time of the year.
Absolutely. It's going to be wonderful. We will be decorated for Christmas. You don't want to miss it. There's an amazing gingerbread house, a train that goes around Christmas trees. The parks are decorated for Christmas. And you, my dear attendee, if you are attending Live 360, your key card to your room is a 2-park fast pass. So when you're done learning and your head is full, you can head over those theme parks and let those roller coasters shake it out for you. So you'll be ready to learn the next day. All right, that's all I've got. So for Mr. Robin Hood himself, Marco Cardoso, the Mountain Man Daniel Taylor, my idol, Mr. Neeraj Jhaveri, the best beard in the business, Andreas Padilla, and the man in the hat, Mr. Josh Luedeman. I'm Bradley Ball. Thank you so much for joining us on Tales from the Field. Take care of one another and be good to each other. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.